Welcome back to Learn Astrology with Mary. My name's Mary English. You find me at www.maryenglish.com, maryenglish.co.uk and UK Astrologer. And today we have a special guest. We've got Alison with us, Alison Boulton, and she's a professional astrologer and she's got a qualification and letters after a name which I don't have. So welcome, Alison. How are you?
I'm really good, thank you. I'm really excited to be here. It's lovely to meet you and to be here to talk to you.
Super. Now, I want to ask you the burning question that I ask a lot of astrologers. How did you get into astrology to start with? When did you even first, and what age approximately were you when you even heard the word Aquarius, Pisces, Leo, whatever? When did you even hear, to begin with, about astrology?
So are you sure you want this story? It might be quite a long story.
Go.
Okay. So the first thing is, I don't think I've ever not known about astrology because my mum was quite interested in it, not in the sense of like she wasn't an astrologer, but she liked to know sun signs and things. And I think possibly, you know, if she'd have had, I don't know, maybe just a slightly different background or something, she might have been an astrologer, if you see what I mean. So I always knew I was Pisces, and it was always my mum's Aquarius. So it was always a little bit like, oh, emotional Pisces. So.
Oh yeah. My mum's was, because she's in heaven now. My mum was an Aquarius too. What sign of the zodiac was your dad, or is your dad?
No, he was Capricorn.
Oh right, no. My dad was a Saggy, so it was a fire air household. Lots going on. Okay, so you already knew that you were a Pisces, yeah. So when did you find out? Because that's knowing your sign of the zodiac. When did you discover your chart? So where was your first chart? Who created that? How did you find out about it? I'm talking about chart now. So talk me through that.
So the chart. So I'm my first chart reading. In fact, the first one I had, and then there was a gap, was with Liz Green.
Wow. You had a reading with Liz?
Yes. Because it was terrifying. Because so I was at university in London, and I was interested. By then I was interested in astrology. And
so what were you studying? Sorry to interrupt, but what were you studying in London that would have made you interested in astrology? What was the subject you were studying in London?
I think I was just interested in astrology.
No, but what were you studying?
Anthropology.
Right.
Anthropology and linguistics, which was kind of, you know. But I was kind of interested anyway, because my mum had a few books and things. So I'd read a few of the sun sign books and that sort of thing, and the differences between her Aquarius and my Pisces, that sort of thing. So I think I went to university with an interest anyway in astrology. And I think in the 1980s, you know, there was a lot of people, you know, we used to do seances and things like that in the student halls and that kind of thing in the first year. It was probably not a great idea, but there was that kind of atmosphere anyway. Excuse me.
So then you made an appointment. How did you even find out that Liz Green existed?
Well, yes. It's sort of actually, and I'm thinking now that it actually goes back further than that, because the first year I was at university, in between, you know, I got a summer job, and I got a summer job working at this Hayford Air Base, which was near us, and basically serving hash browns to the American GIs that were stationed near Bicester. And one of the other people working there, completely absurdly, was a man called Martin Notcutt, who I looked up this morning because I suddenly remembered. And he was interested in Sufism and all things to do with Sufism. And I looked him up this morning, and he's actually now quite an authority on it, and he's written books and that sort of thing. Anyway, at the time he was sort of, I think he'd come over from South Africa, I think, and he was just renting nearby, and he just needed a job like I did. And we started talking to each other because, I don't know, I think he thought I don't know if he thought I might be interested or not. But anyway, I was interested in what he was saying, and he lent me a book about on Rumi and that kind of thing. And he mentioned a group called Bishara, who are still going. They're a study group for Sufism and that kind of thing. Anyway, at the time I had a boyfriend who I did later marry, who was my first husband, and he was also interested in Sufism things. So there was a bit of a link there anyway. So university continued and I finished. I went to India for a few months. And when I came back, I was a bit like, well, I don't know what to do now. And I was still interested in astrology. So I thought, what I probably need is to go to a consultation. But I was really paranoid then that I was going to find somebody who was a charlatan or, going to tell me all kinds of rubbish. So in London, I think is it St James's in Piccadilly or St Martin's? Anyway, near Trafalgar Square, there was a debate between astrology and religion. And Liz Green was the astrologer. Poor Liz Green.
Oh, she didn't get ripped to bits,
did she? It was interesting. So we went.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, yes, okay, Liz Green. And I'd found her books in some bookshops and things. So I thought, okay, that's who I need to do my reading. I trust her.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, well, how do you get Liz Green's number without the internet? No idea. So Paul, the then boyfriend, later husband, now friend again, and I decided anyway, because of our interest in this Sufism, we saw in the local paper, it was the Hampstead and Highgate Express, I think, a little advert for a study day with the Bishara Foundation, based on the works of John G. Bennett and all that kind of thing. So we thought, oh, that'd be interesting. Let's go to that. So we went, and there were a lot of things in those days around Euston, and that's where the Theosophical Society had been. And so we went to it anyway, and the only other person there was a girl who was interested in astrology, and I was talking to her, and she said, I've got Liz Green's number.
Random moment.
Oh, excellent. And by this time I kind of decided that I wanted to study it as well, but I didn't know where to study astrology either. So anyway, I went away and I phoned up Liz Green's assistant, and he gave me, this must have been in the spring, and he gave me a date in September. Fine. Wow. Okay, thank you. And I asked him, where do I study? I asked him, where do I study? And he said, oh, well, you need to go to the Faculty of Astrological Studies. So he gave me those details as well. And then I thought, oh, well, whatever day it is, I didn't have a job then. I thought, when I get a job, I will, I'll just simply have the morning off and go to this, study, to go to this astrology reading. And then I got a teaching job. It was, again, fairly random. I got a teaching job in a little Jewish school in North London. Just teaching infants. I did go and train later, but anyway, that was the first thing I did. And I thought, well, this is a bit of a muddle, isn't it? So I've got a teaching job. How am I going to go to this astrology reading? You can't just have a morning off your class. Anyway, so the date of the astrology reading was a Jewish holiday.
Oh.
So there we are. So
the universe was looking after you.
Yeah, so I don't know how many coincidences down the line that was, but so I went to the astrology reading. Now, I don't know that it was as groundbreaking as, I did think, I was probably late actually, because I'm normally late everywhere, and I've since discovered that she hates people being late.
Well, she's a Virgo. Yeah,
exactly. And I've never had a great relationship with Kronos time, so. So that's yeah. So I then thought, well, okay. So she drew up my chart, and
right.
But without Chiron back in those days, because that was okay. It is, and Chiron's quite important in my chart. So
conjunct the sun.
So that's exactly. so that was anyway. So that was how I got into astrology, and from there I was able to go and register with the faculty, and I think we must have, I never did any actual classes in London. So I think at some point there we moved to Cambridge, and I was doing it by correspondence, by letter. And it was really good, but it was a bit isolating, I think. So I went and took the foundation exam then. Failed the calculation paper, because you went then and you went down to South Kensington and sat in the big exam hall, and they said turn over the papers like they always do. And when they turned over that calculation paper, there was this groan that went through the hall, because it was a New Zealand birth time, and everyone was
like, lots of adding.
Anyway, it was a disaster for me. I didn't pass that one. So.
Just as well, computers were invented, but had computers been invented by that point?
I don't know. I didn't have them in the example.
Right.
So they were just starting, weren't they? Just starting, really. That was 1980, 87, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so I didn't get the foundation that year. So I went back and took it the following year, and it was a Northern Hemisphere birth chart that year. So I managed to actually pass the paper. So I got the foundation paper. So I got the foundation certificate in 1988 or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just stopped, actually, because I just decided that I was just, being that Pisces sun in the 8th house, I was just getting a bit bogged down in it all, really, I think. I understood transits, and I had a ephemeris, so I would look them up, and I was just, oh no. And being sort of on your own, and I think quite isolated, I just thought, actually, maybe I need to just put this down for a bit. So I kind of half put it down, because you never can really put astrology down, can you? So I bought lots of Liz Green books then. So I read all the Liz Green books. And then sometimes sort of I used to go to webinars, the CPA webinars down in Regent's Park, Regent's College.
Mm-hmm.
Went to some of those. I used to get notifications for those, and that was that then, really, for quite a lot of years, I think. And I just followed the transits, and obviously had children and looked at their birth charts. And that's.
Well, you say obviously have children. Not everybody does. So how many children have you got?
Sorry, 3.
3. Oh, that's a lot of children.
Well, it's a good number if you're looking at birth charts and you're interested in seeing how the transits.
You're a living example of what happens with the transit. Yeah. Like, doing the transits for the date that you give birth and then comparing your child's chart with your own. That's eye opener. Okay, so that would okay. So now you're a mum. You've got 3 kids. So what's the time gap now before you pick astrology up again?
Well, excuse me, I don't know why I've got a frog in my throat this morning. It took me 3 Jupiter cycles to get my diploma. So that's how long
So were you studying it while you were bringing the kids up? Is that what was happening?
No, I wasn't really studying it. I was reading it, and I was going to the odd webinar and odd seminar and things in London. But so what happened during that time was my husband and I split up. In fact, a lot happened, because we went to Amsterdam in the meantime, and we were there for 3 years. And then my husband and I split up, and I went and I did an MA. And
what was that in?
Creative writing.
Oh, my sister lectures on that at Bath
So that
Spa.
was what I actually wanted to do. You see, I didn't really want to be an astrologer. I loved astrology, but I wanted to be a writer. So I went to do the MA in creative writing. And then
where did you do that?
East Anglia, at the University of East Anglia.
Oh my God, that's where my sister went.
Oh, really? When was she there? So I was doing it in 2000. So
no, way before that. She's quite a bit older than me. Yeah. A long time ago.
So she maybe got Malcolm Bradbury, did she?
Don't know. I'll have to ask her.
I was quite lucky. I got Andrew Motion. That was quite exciting at the time. We had loads of great writers. So it was really good, actually. It was a really great year. And so then I came back and I was writing and kind of, at home with 3 kids, as it were, at the same time, and kind of working out how I needed to earn some money as well. And anyway, and then around that time, I met the guy I'm with now, my present husband. And he said, oh, I always wanted to move to France and renovate a big house. So I said, gosh, that's a good idea, isn't it? Off we go.
Okay, that's a bit of a fire sign ascendant thing. Boing, we'll go and do something different.
It literally was like that, because we literally met, got married, and moved to France within the space of a year.
Blimey. Okay. Yeah, so I need to ask you the question then. So how impatient are you?
Well, I do have a Taurus moon, but I'm very impatient. I'm getting better as I get older.
Yeah, because I mean, a Leo ascendant will sort of dive first and ask questions afterwards, type of thing. Can do fire sign ascendants.
Well, that Leo ascendant with Mars conjunct.
Well, yeah, Mars conjunct as well, which retrograde, which probably makes it even more impulsive, I think might be the word. Okay, cool. Okay, so there's a lot of education that goes on for you, but there's not much that goes on in your ninth other than I mean, in equal house, I'm using, you've got your MC in your ninth, but you've done a lot of studying, so you've got a lot of degrees. I haven't got anything. I haven't even got A levels. I've got diplomas, that's different, but regular education didn't happen for me. And I wouldn't have been able to do astrology if computers hadn't been invented. So I didn't get into astrology in the 1990s in any big way, because by then computer programs had been invented, and the first one that I bought, which cost me a tenner, was the one that then got me into astrology, even though I had a relative that was into it. My auntie was very into it. I don't know what she was talking about. And I used to say, oh, I'm a Pisces, what did I say? And I've got Gemini in the first house, which is rubbish. I haven't. I've got a Leo ascendant, and I've got Moon in Gemini, and then in the 10th. So you've got Moon in the 10th as well in equal house. But I didn't know what she was talking about. I knew, I'd heard her say houses. I used to say to people, I've got Gemini as the first house, but I remembered that completely wrong.
Yeah.
But then, so just backtracking a little bit. So going to see Liz Green, okay. So you said that you were scared. What were you scared of? Were you scared that she was going to be this sort of charlatan and be rubbish and take the mickey out?
No, I wasn't scared till I got there, and then she was terrifying.
Right. In what way? That she was so good at what she did, or she gave you a hard time?
No, just the whole atmosphere. I mean, you sort of went in. I mean, it was at her house in Hampstead. You go in and well, I suppose I just expected something friendlier, I think, and it was very businesslike and professional, I think, which I hadn't really understood. And I had. And I'm not very good at like preparation, so I hadn't actually, like, some people would have like gone and found the house beforehand, so they knew where they were going, instead of trying to work out which way out the A to Z was, so they could, get there on time. So as I say, I was probably only just on time, and I've since discovered she hates that. But it was just like all the curtains closed and sort of something draped over the lamp in the corner, so there was this whole ambiance of sort of, going into this real space, sort of magical space kind of thing, which was great. Only my overwhelming memory, unfortunately, I've been speaking to some people I knew at university beforehand, and I said, I'm going to this astrology reading, and they were all like, oh, well, right, yeah, don't give anything away, just see if, so I was sort of going in there mute, like a bit like, okay, well, what you can tell me then? Whereas, of course, I realize now that a conversation would have been much more helpful.
And so your overriding memory is?
That she was drinking a glass of orange juice and she didn't offer me any, and I was so thirsty.
Oh, but she does that. I've seen her do lectures. She always has some sort of drink. I went to a lecture of hers, and she was having a fag. She smoked all the way through, and it was a no smoking place, but she smoked. We weren't allowed to smoke in the audience, but she had there with the ashtray and cigarette through the whole thing. I was just astounded. Yeah. Okay. So we'll talk about this, but this is going out broadcasting, so we have to be careful what we're saying about people. So just take me into, now that you've got your certificate, your diploma in astrology, yeah. So when you achieved that, what difference did it make for you?
Oh, it's sort of going forwards, right? Okay, so we've moved on now to I've got the diploma. Okay, so that obviously happened when everything came back online, and I was able to do it through webinars. That was great. What difference did it make for me? Well, firstly, having followed the remaining courses, the intermediate and the other one, I knew a lot more about astrology. So that was good. But the background that I'd had was really helpful, actually, because it gave me context for everything. So I already had an astrological context for my life, if you like, and now I was just able to add details and sort of fill it out and make it into more of a picture. So that was really nice. And I think it just literally gave me the confidence to say, okay, well, if they say I can do it, then I know I can do it. That's fine. But that's a bit me, really. I think that's why I've done so many diplomas and things. You know, maybe it's the Sun Chiron, maybe it's the Saturn Mercury, I don't know. But you know, that kind of needing a diploma for something so that somebody else is giving me a little tick to say, yeah, you can do that. Off you go and do that then.
Okay. And so a lot of the listeners to the podcast are practicing astrology, like, you know, practicing at home, so to speak. And I'm always quoting Donna Cunningham on this one, you know, why doesn't Jenny read? A lot of people know how to do things, but that step from knowing how to do it to actually doing it can be enormous. So now you've got all your qualifications, whatever, and you're setting yourself up in practice. Can you remember, you know, how that worked for you, how you did it, talk me through that, the actual now becoming an official astrologer and giving consultations. So just talk me through that.
Well, I suppose that happened a couple of maybe a year or so, you know, once I'd done the intermediate exam and I was feeling a lot more confident anyway. So that, you know, the final diploma bit is it's not the icing on the cake, but once you've got the intermediate exam, you pretty much know what's going on. And I think then I started just sort of joining things, actually, joining things like the Astrological Association and different stuff like that. So and everything's on the internet, and I started looking at the internet, and then at some point I started writing internet posts, and I just thought, well, I'm just going to write them. You know, what do I think about, you know, at the end of this week, Venus going into Pisces, and actually I found it really, really helpful to actually sit and have to think instead of just kind of just thinking, oh, Venus going to Pisces, yes, it's all about compassion and relationships and all that kind of thing. But you actually had to sit and write a paragraph about what you thought it meant. And the requirement for focus for that was really helpful, I found, actually.
Because you wanted to be a writer anyway. So where, you know, if I could wave a magic wand and you could have all your wishes come true, how would you like the fact that you like writing? Can you incorporate that more into your astrological life or your life in general? Would you want it to be separate? I mean, you were doing creative writing there.
Well, I don't think you can't ever separate anything. The problem I have now is as soon as I think of a character, I have to do a birth chart for them. I think, oh yes, well, they must have a moon in whatever it is to be reacting like that. So I find that a little bit inhibiting, actually. But I haven't kind of given up on the idea of writing. I just haven't, and I do have some ideas. I'm not sure if I will ever get around to writing them, because I'm just so busy with, I mean, we still have our holiday business here in France, and you know, being an astrologer as well, and we're trying to move away from the holiday business so that we can do the other things that we do full time. And that's coming, you know, it is coming, and I'm really enjoying doing all the articles that I'm writing. I mean, I'm sure that the creative writing has helped with just writing in general, so that's good.
Well, some people don't know how to write. I mean, if you've got a qualification in writing, you're going to know how to write, if you know what I mean. Some people don't know at all what is involved in a writing process, or how to take a person when you're writing, how to take them from here to there and la la la. I mean, I don't write fictionally, that's my sister. I've only done non-fiction, but you'll find that if you have a writing ability, it's something that you can use. So don't put it to one side. I hope you've read The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron.
I haven't, but somebody else has mentioned that.
Get it. Don't get The Artist's Way journal, The Artist's Way. You can get the commemorative one, but just get the first one. It's a 12-step program, how to make sure that, I read it years ago, but how to make sure that your creative spark hasn't been squished by something. It's how to resurrect it and to keep it going. It is a brilliant book, and she is a Pisces. And if I remember rightly, I think she's got moon in Capricorn, but don't quote me. Okay. But she's a fellow Pisces, and I definitely recommend it. The Artist's Way, Julia Cameron. Get a copy. Okay. She's probably only just still alive. There were some YouTube videos of her, because she's getting on a bit now, and she used to do YouTube videos and stuff. But the book itself was a bestseller, and it's marvelous. Make sure you get an original copy of it, and it's got some birds and a mountain and all the rest of it. get a second-hand
I will
copy.
look. Mm-hmm.
Have a look. But I
Okay,
definitely
thank you.
recommend it. And I read that before I started writing all the books that I've done. Eek. So yeah, I definitely recommend that. Okay, so you're running a holiday business and you're located in France. So I'm not too sure where I'm talking to you. You're not in the UK.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, we're in the south of France. Yeah, and we have a holiday business, which is what we've been doing for years. And
Which bit of France?
So it's in the it's in the Cevennes. So it's about an hour north of Nîmes. It's about an hour and a half from the coast.
Oh, right. We're going off to Clavier in April, me and my sisters.
Where's that?
It's got to go to Nice airport and then up a bit.
Okay.
So that end of France.
Yeah.
Don't ask me because I'm no good at geography, but it's bottom right, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the clients that you're working with now, I presume you work with them online, or do you do face-to-face?
It's mostly online, just because I can work in French, but I prefer to work in English. So obviously, mostly they are online. Yeah, which is fine. Sometimes they're further away as well. There was a lady sort of just the other day from Canada, which is lovely, and then you have to juggle a little bit the time slots, but that's okay. It's good.
And so, if somebody was you meet somebody at a party now, you're at a party, random party, chatting to people, and they say, "Oh, Alison, what do you do for a living?" How do you reply?
Oh, no. Now I definitely say I'm an astrologer.
And how does that feel to say that?
Oh, that's great, actually. Yeah. Yeah, no, I've been doing that for a couple of years now, and that's it's true.
And do you feel this is your vocation?
Vocation. Well, it's taken me a long time to get there. I definitely feel so. The more I look at it, the more I can see the connectedness of everything and other people's charts too, which I think is really interesting. And I was just thinking this morning, actually, I'm not answering your question at all here, that that what's really important, one of the really important things in a chart actually is the ruler of the ascendant and where it is, and the house and sign it's in. And we know that, that's something that we learn, but I just realized sort of so much more forcefully this morning just absolutely how true that is, because I was talking to my husband the other day, and we were talking about, they're just sort of strands of our lives and things. And I said, well, I've just always been totally obsessed by the universe and what's what's going on with it and what I'm supposed to be doing in it. And he sort of looked at me and sort of said, really? And he was much more involved, and in how to build up a material life and how to to make that work for him. And he's interested too in astrology, but that wasn't his focus. And so I suppose, is it a vocation? Well, it probably is then.
But do you feel like you're living the life that you wanted to have had?
So do you mean that I'm only now living the life that I wanted to?
No, I'm asking. Yeah, I'm asking that. Yeah.
Well, I don't think I wanted to have this life all that, back then, because sometimes I do think, gosh, if I had kind of followed that thread in the 80s, like so many, well-known astrologers today did when they sort of did what I did and they carried on, would that have been better? But I don't know. I honestly can't say for sure that it would, because I think I might have just got a bit lost in it all. Anyway, but at that time, still, I still wanted to be a writer. I wanted to be a creative writer, and I have written books, by the way. It's just that it's more about getting published and getting out there, and I've published them. But
don't apologize for that. There's nothing wrong with self-publishing.
No, there's not. But I would have but if other people have published them, then potentially I could have followed that as a career, because it's hard to make money when you just publish things yourself and you have to do the marketing and stuff and all. So, but then probably I would have never come back to the astrology. So.
And so going back to the studying of astrology, I haven't done it. I've got no qualifications. All I've got is some O levels and a few diplomas. Yeah, didn't even get A levels.
You have diplomas?
Yeah, I've got a diploma in homeopathy and hypnotherapy.
Okay, well, there we go.
Yeah, But as far as anything else goes, I haven't got a qualification in astrology, but you have, yeah. So the learning that you do, there's 3 stages, like a beginner, intermediate, and then advanced type of thing. Is that how they do the course?
There definitely is with the faculty, yeah.
Right.
And I think most programs have that, really. So yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so the coursework that they set you, do they make you actually do physical charts still now that you've got to calculate it with the ephemeris and a map of the world and blah blah blah?
I think you have to, with log tables and stuff. Yeah, I think you have to, in the foundation course, still show that you can calculate a chart. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes,
Sure.
I could never have done that. My mathematics is abysmal. I have to use a calculator and just about count to 10. And I've got all the books on how to do it. Yeah.
It's just a series of steps. I mean, it's so much easier to do it on the computer. But yeah. I mean, I'm sure you could have done it, Mary. It's not. As long as it's not New Zealand, it's not that hard.
That'd be the sort of thing that I'd forget as well. And so what do you think astrology has changed since you first heard about it?
Gosh, well, that's difficult, isn't it? I mean, there's a lot more people doing it, that's for sure. Which is one of the things we were saying about being sad about Neptune leaving Pisces, because I think it has been a sort of, it has definitely blossomed, hasn't it, during this period. So do I think it's changed? Well, I think when there's more of anything, there's obviously going to be more options, more opinions, more stuff, more things in it. I mean, the sort of the Center for Psychological Astrology, which I think is still going, and the faculty, I mean, they've changed, but I mean, their core teachings, I don't think have changed that much. I mean, everything evolves, I guess. People, discover new things and publish them.
And then how did you get past the sun sign thing into the houses thing? Was that an easy transition for you to discover that there's a chart when before you just thought you were a particular sign of the zodiac?
Well, I suppose I found that with Liz Green when she gave me my chart. I might have realized it before, I'm not sure. But definitely that was the first time I'd sort of seen my chart. Yeah, well, that made a lot more sense, because then you start to understand that actually, of course, you're not just a Pisces or just an Aquarius. You've got all this other stuff which feeds into it, which, it does. It just makes so much more sense, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Because the first time I don't know if I had never had anybody do me an astrological reading. But I said this computer program I got, I was totally stuck into that. It was marvelous. So bing, 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 birth date, location. It wasn't particularly accurate. There was a few things that it might be a bit wobbly for. I certainly wouldn't use it now. It's on a laptop. There's not even enough dead at the minute. But it was great because it brought to 3D that my existence was unique to me because of the time of date and blah blah blah. Even though it might be similar to somebody else's, your actual moment of birth is so unique to you, unless somebody's born in the same hospital at the same time. There's going to be, and even then there'll be differences because you might be brought up by different parents and stuff, or your circumstances might be different. But I find that looking at a chart, all that happens for me is go, oh, I understand the person now. I look at the chart. Oh, okay. Now I know how to talk to them. Now I know how to help them. Because I've got a private practice, a homeopathy. I've retired now, but I still do hypnotherapy and but when I look at a chart, I go, oh, now I know how to work with that person so that they can get to where they need to go. Because you cannot use this is my opinion, you cannot use the same methods or the same instructions or anything for anybody. You definitely, if you have the chart, you now have the doorway to be able to communicate with people and to understand why they've done stuff. And also people that are in the news, like your presidents and your prime ministers and all the rest of it. Why are they being such idiots? Oh, because they got this, that and the other in their charts or whatever. I'm forever making charts, and I've got an app on my phone and I'll hear okay, that's why. Oh, they got this transit going on at the moment, that sort of thing. For me, I find astrology is the answer, life, the universe and everything, apart from the fact that people are born in the UK, nobody ever knows what time of day they want.
No, sadly.
And I just had an email from somebody today, she won't mind me saying, and so I've done a chart for years, okay? And she's a therapist, and somebody in the family must have died because she's just inherited a lot of paperwork. And in the paperwork was a baby book, and in the baby book was her accurate time of birth. Somebody had written in there. And so she emailed me to say she doesn't know much astrology. She emailed and said, will that change my chart? And there's a difference about 4 hours. And I felt like immediately, what do you mean difference? Everything is going to be radically different, but it doesn't matter because the signs of the zodiac will still be the same, but the ascendant is immediately. So I'm going to email her back again. Yes, a different time of birth will radically change your chart.
Yeah, so please discount all the advice I've given you over the last 20 years.
well, no, actually, not necessarily, because yes, there's houses and things, but a lot of times when you're working with somebody, it doesn't even matter that you haven't got the chart, as long as you've got the signs that things are in. So somebody that has, I don't know, Saturn in the sign of Capricorn or whatever is going to be more practical than somebody who's got it in Sagittarius type of thing. So there's still the advice that you can give them, and I can still just work with the signs that things are in. But obviously I would have said to this person at some point, you got blah, blah, blah going through such a house. But yeah, we'll see when I remake the chart, because I haven't done it yet. So where would you like your practice to go? And there's me asking a question, and whether or not you forward plan. That's a better question. Do you forward plan? Because you haven't got have you got much cardinal in your chart? No, you've only got your Venus in cardinal, so you don't like planning ahead. Okay.
Yeah, I do like planning.
Yeah,
I do like planning.
I'm
just going to come back to your lady though, as long as the moon signs is the same, because the moon sign is just tremendously important. And then you do lose that thing about, which is such a shame, as you say, when I don't have an accurate birth time. My kind of light bulb moment this morning with how important the sign in the house of the ruler of the chart are. Anyway, never mind. But you can do a lot with just the other stuff. Yes, it's true.
Yeah, and it also depends whether or not you're reading for somebody who's into astrology. This particular person doesn't know an awful lot of astrology, so in a sense, it doesn't really matter. It does matter if you're reading for an astrologer or somebody that's really read up on it, because finding the birth time, some people never find their birth time. We've got
I do rectification. I absolutely love it, where you just get all this information about someone, and then you just keep looking at all the charts to see which one resonates. And of course, you never know in the end. It's another exam in a sense, but it's an exam that you never actually, nobody ever says, yes, you passed. Because unless like you suddenly get the actual birth time there. But I love it. And then you come up with a time that resonates with the chart, which is wonderful. And people react to it really in a really interesting way. They get so excited to see their chart sort of, which is hopefully pretty close to what their chart actually is when you've kind of done all the work on it and everything.
And then, so when you gave birth to the 3 kiddies, were you busily doing their charts the minute they popped out or not?
Pretty much.
Look at Gemini ascendant or whatever. Yeah. And did that change the way you parented your children? So assuming you didn't know astrology.
Probably not as much as it should have done. No, I mean, I think, gosh, I've got 3 children who at one time were all 3 children under 5. I mean, God, just parenting them really is a challenge. So, and and there was me, and my husband was at work a lot of the time, and then sometimes he was away at work, and then I was in Amsterdam with 3 small children, and so you're in a foreign country. I mean, you just try and like keep them together. Really, I don't think I did. I wasn't kind of keep peering at their chart, thinking, "Oh my goodness, yes, the so and so. I better do this to encourage her, in a whatever it is." No. But I probably should have done, but no.
Well, I don't know. I think looking at anybody's chart too much takes the joy away from it. If you're constantly looking at something, then you're not living life at all. I was reading one of the books, The Only Way to Learn Astrology books. I think it was volume 4 last night. And in there, Joan McKevers, I think her name is, she was saying, don't check transits all the time. Don't check progressions. Don't do it every flipping day. Don't get obsessive about it, because, it's you actually have to live life too. And I do know people that have done that. You know, they don't get out of bed before they checked absolutely everything. I think, oh, actually, you're not really living your life. I think it's useful. It's a tool and it's something that we should be using, but to be using it all the time, I think is a bit too obsessive. Check where Pluto's in your chart. You know, it might have something to do with that. And so your first husband was called Paul. Guess what my first husband was called?
Paul?
Yes. There's some
Okay.
similarities in your
So what
story
is your
that you
second
don't.
husband called?
Jonathan.
Okay, I know, mine's called Chris. So thank goodness we've
Yeah,
branched off there.
we have. And what sign of the zodiac is your present husband?
Oh gosh, Gemini.
Right, my first one was Gemini. What was your first one?
Libra.
Right, okay, no, my first one was a Gemini. Yeah, okay. So you've got Moon in the 10th.
Yeah, I'm in the 10th.
So Moon in the 10th people generally are quite emotional about the work that they do. So you've done other jobs as well. So just give me a couple of sort of type of job titles that you've had. So you did teaching, yes. What else have you?
Well, I kind of did teaching. You know, I have not really had jobs like that.
Mm-hmm.
I managed to avoid having jobs actually. So I did do a teaching qualification after my degree. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then wasn't able to get a job in teaching in Cambridge at that time. So I worked for Cambridge University Press for a bit doing publicity. So that was fine. That was good. And then I had a baby, and then we kind of moved on, and we moved to Suffolk, and then we moved to Amsterdam, and then I came to France. So I kind of managed to avoid actually. I did some part-time jobs.
So you've done a lot of moving then. You've been about the place.
I've been here for the last 22 years. So,
okay.
So we stopped. When we got here, we stopped.
And do the French, do they do astrology differently to us? So if you're working with a French client?
Yeah, to be completely honest with you, I don't work with a lot of French clients, only people I know really. And it's not so much because I can't speak French, but it's just because I think that you need to be able to pick up nuances with what people say. And I do find that I sometimes, you don't want to have to say to them, sorry, what did you say? I mean, you can always go back to them and say, okay, I've understood that you've told me here that, this, is that how you'd, do it? But yeah, so I was always a little bit concerned about that, just especially over Skype, if it was, in other parts of France. I mean, I probably could work with French clients actually. I think I've just got all my website and everything is in English, and it's always just been easier to do it like that.
And so okay, so take me back to your practice. So you do 1 hour with a client, 90 minutes. Have you got sort of set times that you offer people?
Yes, so I do 90 minutes with approximately the first sort of probably 50 minutes, hour on the chart, especially if they've never had a reading before. And then the rest of the time is on the forecasting and looking at the energies that are coming into their lives and that kind of thing. So yeah, and I really like to look at cycles as well, all the progressed cycles. I like to look at the Jupiter cycle, even if it's just a quick look to just see if it's offering anything, at that particular moment that might give some insight. And then when you start to look at the chart, and of course, you have an understanding of people before, because you've got a system that you work through, you look at all the different aspects, you look at, the elements and the modalities and stuff. But I think when people start to speak, then it's like the whole tapestry just sort of fills up, and you suddenly get this kind of, vision of how the life has kind of woven itself together. And I think that's so interesting. And then you understand the chart, I think, and the symbols start to really speak to you. Yeah.
And how do you get that across to your client then, the fact that the symbols are speaking to you? How do you get that across to them?
Wow. So I normally start actually with the ascendant, and say, you know, something that's you can kind of get a start with the easy stuff. Actually, start with the things that are going to be fairly obvious to them in their lives, because you know, I mean, you're an astrologer. You're not there to be a therapist necessarily, unless they want you to. So, you know, they might not wish to talk about the deeper elements of their lives at all. So that's absolutely fine. You might just be there to give them some career advice or something like that. So start with the ascendant and how that kind of strikes you and their approach to life. And then you can, you know, look at the MC as well and how that, and then maybe the moon sign and the sun sign and the big three, if you like, that everyone talks about. Oh, my big three, you know. And then you can sort of look at the elements and say, well, you know, it seems like you're kind of motivated in this way or that way or whatever it is. And then gently, you can say, oh, and I'm interested in, you know, I'm quite interested in maybe how your father was in your life. It looks to me like you might have had this kind of relationship with them. You know, does that resonate with you at all? Is it something you want to talk about or discuss? And then they either do or they don't. And there's no, you know, that can, because sometimes, of course, that can tune in to other experiences that they're having at the time, perhaps potentially with a partner or something. And sometimes people just don't want to talk about that, which is fine. And they want to just focus on, you know, where should I go in my studying or, yeah, that, which is also absolutely fine.
And so in the consultation, what you're saying is that the energies change because of the conversation that you're having with the person. Yes, because obviously it's a two-way street. Yeah. Do you ever do an event chart for the time that they've booked for? Have you ever done that?
I always do that. I always do that, and I always compare their chart to mine, and yeah, so I can see if there's likely to be any issues or if I'm going to perhaps come over as, because what you don't want to come over as, I feel, is, you know, someone who's kind of the repository of all wisdom or anything. So, you know, you have to make it clear that you've just got a certain body of learning and potentially, hopefully, at some point, a certain, you know, there's a certain psychic space, because sometimes things occur to you during the reading that you hadn't thought of beforehand. You know, that stuff that just pops into your head, and that's the stuff that you have to go with because you absolutely know that that's right. Yeah, so that really, so I do the event chart, and then if people want to come back for a second reading, it's sort of 60 minutes, and obviously I know their chart, so don't need to do so much work on it, so that's cheaper.
And so in your practice, so the setting of it up, you said took probably about a year, like getting the website up and that type of thing. No.
I've no idea how long it took, Mary. I just sort of did bits of it and did it, and you know, did it.
And what advice would you give to somebody that was learning astrology now that wanted potentially at some point into the future to become an astrologer themselves? What would you advise that learning astrologer?
So I think there's a lot that you can learn on your own. And obviously, you know, I hesitate to say this because you're clearly, you know, an expert astrologer and you've never had the diplomas and things. I know lots of people have, but I do think that I find that structured learning in any subject, and maybe that's the teacher in me, you know, I used to teach English. You can't teach English. You can't teach, you know, subjunctive tenses and things like that unless you've learnt the present. So I really do think that structured learning is a good idea. And the best way to get that is to sign up with some kind of program, whether that's the faculty or the Mayo School, or I think the London School of Astrology is good, you know, all that kind of thing, I think is important for me.
Yeah. That's who I'm asking this for.
I mean, so yeah. I would find that essential in any kind of learning, to make sure that you haven't missed anything really. To make sure that, you know, you haven't missed out a certain verb ending, but, you know, you would have been absolutely crucial in the way you're talking to people, and you know, it's like that for me, I think.
Yeah, I mean, in my defence, I was professionally trained as a homeopath, so I was running my astrological practice in tandem with that.
Right.
So I already had literally training on how to work with people. So my practice wasn't just astrologically based. I was a therapist who also did astrology. But I started doing psychic readings when I was 13. So,
Okay.
so I've been in this field for a hell of a long time. And I absolutely hear what you're saying about getting qualifications, because I teach one-on-one with students, and then quite often times they'll go and get a proper qualification. So I'm just teaching them the basic stuff that I know. And I think that's an important thing, that these qualifications exist, because at least then the client themselves knows that they're speaking to somebody that has some professional qualification, therefore knows the difference between their Mercury and their Neptune or whatever, or they're not going to miss stuff.
Because people are so suggestible, and you tell them something and, you realize later that was wrong, or you learn later and you made a mistake, and, they might have acted on that in the real world and gone out and done something. And I mean, that's, it's a huge responsibility, I think, being in this kind of relationship with anybody. And the faculty at least do give you a little bit of training on, how to relate to clients, and the diploma exam is about that. How do you talk to your client? How do you introduce subjects? That kind of thing. What do you not say? Unless they say something. It's a good idea maybe to have some people that you could refer them to, or, if people do say they would like, deeper, more therapy or something, which some people do. I mean, most people, to be honest, that I speak to really just would like to know what's going on in their lives, that why are they feeling like this, what's kind of knocked them sideways, how long is it going to last, and how can they work with it, and how will it sort of develop going forward.
So one final question, Alison. So what are you hoping for in 2025? There's so many planets changing sign. Is there any that you're looking forward to, or you're freaking out about? Or
No, I'm not freaking out about any of it. I mean, for Chris and I would really like to move on from here, I think, so that I can devote all my time to the astrology. And Chris has projects as well. He's an artist, so he wants to move on to doing that sort of full time. So that would be really nice if that were possible. That's kind of on the wish list. But apart from that, I think, all I really am hoping is that I understand what I'm supposed to be, that the direction continues to sort of come and make itself clearer, so that I know where I'm going. Because I mean, it's been a tremendous growth year. I found 2024, not always the easiest, but a tremendous sort of year of growth. So
Thank you very much for speaking with us today. So how do listeners get in contact with you? Can you give us your website address?
So that's very unimaginative. So it's alisonsastrology.net.
Super. So what we'll do is we'll put onto the show notes on YouTube how people can get in contact with you. And I'll also read them out on the podcast and put them onto the show notes there. Thank you very much for speaking with me today. It's been lovely talking to you. Super. So I'm going to turn the recording off, and then we'll have a little chat afterwards. But thank you very much for coming today. All right. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.